Redskins Report.
Oh, Mike, that's real funny. Got no audio going, but you trying to talk to the people. How dare I? Let's try that again. Welcome, all my fellow Redskin brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Redskins fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here, Redskins Report. So, got some Redskins news. Over the weekend, Redskins cut the roster down to 75. No big important cuts there. The only notable name was Willie Jefferson, a guy that was playing the outside linebacker position for us that I thought had an outside shot at making the roster. Once we had the injury to Junior Gillette, all bets were off at outside linebacker, and everybody had a shot, and he didn't make it. So obviously he didn't do enough for the coaching staff to retain him. And so I think a guy like Lyndon Trail still has an outside shot at making this roster. I'll see how they fill out the roster. It'll be interesting to see what they decide to do. But the reason I came to you today is because the Redskins, and if you watched my Redskins breakdown of the Week 3 preseason game versus the Buffalo Bills, literally it was me and everyone that was watching at the time basically bitching and complaining about how bad the run defense was for about 35, 45 minutes. I mean, that's essentially what it was. It was us reminiscing on how bad last year was in the run game and how bad we looked in the run game again in Week 3 of the preseason. And because of that, and I think we weren't the only ones that noticed that we were getting gutted in the run game against the Bills yet again, because we got gutted by the Bills in the run game last year when we played them in week, I want to say 15 at FedEx Field. I think they realized what was going on, and because of the failed physical of Bryan Stork, the player we traded for with the Patriots, and I'll get to that in a second, because of that failed physical, that freed up a roster spot, and the Redskins realized, look, we got a deficiency. And what this signing means of Cullen Jenkins, the former New York Giant, former Green Bay Packer, a guy that I've watched from afar and admired him throughout his career. He's a really solid football player. I don't know how much he has left in the tank. This guy's up there in age. But I always say this about my defensive linemen. Look, I like my defensive linemen well done, okay? I don't mind my beef up front well done, okay? You might like yours medium rare. You might like the blood coming out. That's nasty to me. I want mine well done, okay? I like my beef up front well done. And this guy's a veteran. Veterans know how to get it done. They know all the tricks of the trade. 1-year deal. We're not asking this guy to be around for a long time. We're just asking him to be a stopgap. We need help up front. Cullen Jenkins, if he is in fact in shape, and I don't think they would have signed him if he wasn't, can help us. So I don't feel like this is a bad move. I actually like this. It upgrades our defensive line, and we need help up front. And that's what this move says to me, that the organization realizes we need help up front. We're not okay. You try to convince yourself that you're okay. And that pity party that we had on Saturday night talking about the lack of run defense, that's not okay. We tried to convince ourselves we'll be fine. No Chris Baker. We'll be fine. No, it's not okay. We won't be fine. We don't want to go into week 1 versus Pittsburgh saying we'll be fine and then get torched by the old man D'Angelo Williams. Let's not wait until week 2 when we see the best offensive line in the league in the Dallas Cowboys come to town and they smoke us. Go get help now. And Cullen Jenkins helps now. I don't know how big of an upgrade this is going to be. I don't know how much he helps our run defense, but it's better than what we were putting on the field before. It can't hurt. I know that for sure. He's not going to come on to our team and make us any worse. I will say that. So I don't have a problem with this move, man. It's good to see that the organization recognizes that we have a weakness and a huge deficiency on our team, and it's called stopping the run. And they're trying to address that the best way they can. Look, there's nothing on the street worth having this time of the year, most likely. Okay, after these round of cuts, no one releases anything worth having in the first round of cuts. So there may still be someone yet that shakes free once these rosters trim down to 53. We may find a hidden gem, but for the most part, nothing on the street is worth having right now. So to get Cullen Jenkins, he may be a solid pickup, but I don't know how much he moves the needle. But again, it can't hurt because we're hurting along that defensive line right now. So let me put a nice bow on the Bryan Stork situation. I talked about this during the video when I talked about us first making the trade for Bryan Stork. And after I finished that video, it was brought to light that he was thinking about retiring and all of the concussions and all of those things. Well, in New England, it didn't work out for him. He was going to be released, as I talked about on the video talking about Bryan Stork and the trade that the Redskins made. In that video, I also mentioned that this was a conditional pick. Okay, the Redskins were giving up a 7th round conditional pick, which meant that he had to, make the roster. And again, I don't know the actual conditions in the terms of the conditions, but of course, the first condition that needed to be met was he had to make our roster, which he didn't. He failed the physical. And so the Redskins said, here, New England, you take your stuff back. We don't want it. And by the way, make sure you give me my pick back in the process. So we get our 7th round pick back. They get their player back, which they promptly released him because that's what they were going to do prior to us trading for him. So it didn't work out. As the more and more I read about the situation and the more and more I learned about Bryan Stork and his health concerns, the less and less I became excited about this move, to be honest with you. When a guy has already had 4 concussions in his career and he's only in his 2nd season, that worries me. When a guy can't stay healthy and can't play a full season, that worries me. So when the Patriots turn their back on a player that helped them win a Super Bowl because he has a temper and he can't stay healthy and he's got concussion issues, that worries me. So the way I look at it is that we got our pick back. He wasn't going to work out for us most likely. The likelihood of him staying healthy with us was slim to none. Okay, it was a really minute and minuscule chance that this guy was going to come in, upgrade the center position, all the while staying healthy. I just didn't see that happening. So it's probably for the best that we don't release somebody that we may ultimately need, thinking that we have Bryan Stork and he's going to help, and then we get rid of somebody that may be able to help us as depth down the line. Say a Josh Arebus or a Austin Ryder. We get rid of one of those guys thinking that we've got Bryan Stork and he's going to provide us with depth or start for us or whatever the case may be. We cut loose a Austin Ryder. Somebody else picks him up and he's no longer available to us. And then all of a sudden, Bryan Stork has another concussion and stays in the protocol for, similar to what happened with Corey last year, where he went down with a stinger and we had no idea. There was no timetable for when he was going to be back. When you've had 4 concussions, there's no timetable for when you'll be back when you have another one. So I'm glad we didn't put ourselves in that position. This was the best thing probably that could have happened to us in terms of Bryan Stork. That way we don't make a mistake, cut somebody loose that we ultimately might need, lose their services in the process, and ultimately lose Bryan Stork to an injury once the season starts. So we don't want to have to go out on the streets and find Brian De La Puente like we did last year. That's basically what I just said to you. And not signing Bryan Stork because he failed the physical, I think, allows us to not have to do that again. So I don't have a problem with the Stork trade falling through because he failed the physical. So in short, quickly to recap, the Bryan Stork trade with the Patriots was rescinded. Bryan Stork failed his physical. And so we sent him back to New England because he failed the physical, voiding and making the trade done. That trade is no longer on the table. The Patriots received their player back in Bryan Stork. We received our 7th round pick back. The Patriots then released Bryan Stork. He is now a free agent. And we, because of that move, have a roster spot. Remember, the rosters were trimmed down to 75 over the weekend. We subsequently had a free roster spot because we were holding that spot for Bryan Stork. So that gave us an extra spot available. Instead of having 75 players on our roster, we had 74. We went out and used that roster spot on Cullen Jenkins, the veteran defensive tackle that last was with the Giants, can come in, can help us, give us a little bit more presence and beef up front. Again, I like my beef well done. When I cut it, I don't like to see any blood in the middle. I want it fully cooked. And he's a fully cooked veteran, knows the ins and outs of the defensive line, knows all the tricks and the trades, how to pull, how to tug, how not to get caught, how to free up his linebackers. He's going to be really good for us. Again, I don't know how much he has left in the tank, but he's a really good football player. And at this point in the season, you're lucky to get your hands on a guy, a veteran like Cullen Jenkins. So it's not going to hurt us, that's for sure. We need help along that defensive line. Hopefully he's going to provide that for us. Got a couple of comments. I'll read those and then we'll just get out of here. Protect428 says, Stork's career in a standstill after the trade is voided. Yep, it sure is. And he might as well just go ahead and retire. He was thinking about it anyway. He was mulling over retiring. The Redskins organization convinced him otherwise. But he realizes that his health isn't the best. And at some point when you have these injuries, sort of like Tony Romo, you need to start considering what life after football is going to be like. Your quality of life after football. You need to start thinking about those things. And if you're Bryan Stork, there's no reason to still play football. Unless you're hurting financially and you feel like this is your only means to make money and provide for yourself and your family, by all means, who am I to tell you what to do? But if you are financially stable and you've already had 4 concussions and you were already mulling retirement, just go ahead and hang it up. Call it a day. Jay Moo says, they tried to convince us that we were okay during the draft. Better late than never, I guess. I was hoping that we were going to get an impact player in the draft. We all were. You know how I felt about possibly getting our hands on the Baylor defensive tackle, Andrew Billings. He was around for a very long time. We passed on him. He's not even healthy. He's injured, probably going to miss the entire season for the Bengals. So, I mean, I don't know if he would have injured himself if he was with us. It doesn't matter. We thought we could get by is essentially what happened. And a guy like Matt Ioannidis, he's been okay, but I don't know if he moves the needle. You know what I mean? Like, I think they're realizing that we got some issues. And like you said, better late than never. I mean, frankly, I would much rather them figure that out now than 5 weeks into the season and we've been gutted and we're 1-4 because we can't stop the run. So hopefully this is an upgrade. I think it is. I think you add him to the mix, and this does impact the roster, though. Somebody that probably was going to make the team may not make the team now. I could be talking about Matt Ioannidis. He could possibly be on the practice squad now, if we can even get our hands back on him. Because, again, if someone else says, hey, man, we like this guy coming out of Temple, let's get him. They can. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. But somebody along that defensive line is getting cut now, and I don't really know who it is. But somebody's, because of this signing, if he's in shape and they're happy with what they see out of Cullen Jenkins over the next, week, after that Thursday preseason game, and they go and sit down and they get to that board and they start trimming the roster fat off and getting down to 53, somebody on that defensive line, if they're keeping Cullen Jenkins, somebody on that defensive line is probably going to be a casualty. So we'll see what happens. Let's see what else we have up here. If we have any more comments. Amic89 says, well, somebody got to take Corey. He sucks. Well, look, that's the best we can do right now. Corey is the best we can do at center. You know how I feel. I would love to see Spencer Long in at center. But obviously, they're not convinced that Spencer Long is better than Corey Lichtensteiger at center. And obviously, they don't feel like Sean Laval is better than Spencer Long at left guard. So what are you supposed to do? I mean, obviously, they're at practice every day. They're watching these players. They feel like they have the right 5 in there. I beg to differ, but until something happens to prompt change, that's going to be the starting 5 in terms of the offensive line come week 1. Trent at left tackle, Spencer Long at left guard, Corey Lichtensteiger at center. Right guard is going to be Brandon Sheriff, and right tackle, and right guard Brandon Sheriff, and right tackle, if he's healthy, Morgan Moses. We'll see if we can get to the starting blocks with all 5 of our offensive linemen healthy to start the season. Greg the Best 14 says, did you hear about Josh Doctson? And if you did, do you think he would play against the Bucs? Word out of Ashburn is that Josh Doctson's not playing in the final preseason game. They said they think he'll be ready for the opening week of the season. They said he's running routes really well. They like the progress that he's making. They don't want to push him, though, and try to get him to play against the Bucs and have him re-aggravate something or have something go wrong. They rather err on the side of caution. They're saving a roster spot for him. They want him to be ready come week 1. So word out on the streets. No Josh Doxson. No, the Doc is not going to be in against Tampa Bay in week 4 of the preseason. Let's see. All right, so that looks like all the comments that I have. I'll check Twitter quickly, even though normally don't have anything on Twitter when I do these live feeds. I'll still check anyway, just to make sure I don't want to omit anyone. And no, there is a comment. No, there isn't a comment. So that will be all. I actually do have a comment, but this one's an old one, but I'll read it anyway. At Bo Bobonic says, you might have to make a show about the Kaepernick issue, please. I already said my piece on the Kaepernick situation. Look, the man didn't want to stand up for the national anthem because he feels like this is a country that doesn't stand up for its minorities. I don't have a problem with that. It's your option if you want to stand up for the national anthem or not. I could really care less. You know, there are bigger issues in the world than a man sitting down for the national anthem. I don't really give a damn, to be honest with you. That's just how I feel about that. I mean, it's his choice. Freedom of speech. This is his way of exerting his freedom of speech. Okay, knock yourself out. I don't really have a problem with it. That's up to him. Protect 428 says, do you think that Jamison Crowder will be healthy for week 1? I do. I think he'll be fine. I think they held him out in week 3 because he had just injured himself a couple days earlier in practice. And I think if need be, he could have played in week 4. And this is just speculation on my part. Again, I'm not there. I don't know exactly. But just listening to them talk about the injury doesn't seem major. Sounds like something, like I said, if he needed to play, if this was a regular season game, he could have been playing this coming week versus Tampa Bay. But it's not. So there is no reason for him to play. So I think he'll be ready come week 1. I'm not really too concerned about his injury. Really need him to stay healthy because I still got questions about punt return. And I don't know if it's going to be him or Rashard Ross, but I still got questions there as well. Like, we still got some questions to answer on this football team. You know, I feel good about this season. I feel good about the offense, but we still got questions on defense. We still got questions on special teams. We still got questions, period. So I believe he'll be fine, though. Protect, let's see. I got another question. This one from Greg the Best, 14. What do you think about Rob Kelly? Like I said about Rob Kelly, man, I don't think he's the world's greatest. I don't believe he can fly. But what I do think is he can bump and grind in between the tackles. I think he's going to be fine. Look, at the end of the day, sometimes you got to settle. You know, in life, look, if I'm a 6, what makes me think I can go and pull a 10? All right? Sometimes you just got to settle in life. All right? If I'm a 6 and there's a 6 in front of me, she looks good to me. Everybody else might think, she's a 6. Hey, I'm a 6 too. You want me to go try to pull that 10 and get shut down? No. Go approach that 6 and live a happy life with the 6, man. Live happily ever after with the 6. Rob Kelly is a 6, man. Nothing pretty, nothing flashy. He's not a dime. No, I'm not excited about Rob Kelly. No, I'm not excited about Rob Kelly. But what he is a solid option at a position where we don't have many solid options. So am I going to turn down a solid option right now when I don't have anything else, when I don't have an alternative? No, I'm not going to do that. Now, if somebody cuts a guy from this roster cut down to 53 and he looks like an 8 or a 9 or a 7, and that's an upgrade over this 6, my bad, Rob, but I got to move on. But until then, I'm going to just roll with Rob because Rob's the only thing I know right now. We don't have Matt Jones. Who? Matt Jones. We don't got him right now. He's banged up. Don't know if we're going to be able to keep him healthy. Chris Thompson. Love Chris Thompson. You love CT Scan just as much as I do. But we know we don't want to hand him the rock in between the tackles. That's why they won't do it because they know he will get banged up. So, bottom line, Rob Kelly's the best we got right now, man. So, I'm going to just take this 6 and be content with my 6. Moving right along. Protect428 says, what inside linebackers will be cut in your opinion? Man, I've been hearing a lot of Perry Riley Jr. getting cut. PRJ not making this roster. I think, let's look at it like this. I think they're keeping 4 inside linebackers. So if we go with the premise that they're keeping 4, you got your 2 starters, Mason Foster and Will Compton. So those 2 aren't going anywhere. I think Garvin is going to make this team. I think Martrell Spate is making this team. You tell me. If they're keeping 4. Now, if they keep 5, Perry Riley Jr. is on his roster. If they're keeping 4, there you have it. He's not on his roster. So we'll see. Look, this is the thing. We got all these different positions where we want to keep an inordinate amount of players, like receiver. We want to keep 6 of those. Well, if you're keeping 6 receivers, guess what? You can't keep a bunch of linebackers. If you're keeping, let's say we keep 6 corners. And I don't know the extent of the Quentin Dunbar injury, but let's say he's healthy, he's fine, he's going to make this roster. Say you want to keep 6 corners. Well, guess what? You can't keep 5 inside linebackers unless you're going to trim off some fat somewhere else. You can't keep 4 tight ends unless you're trying to tell me the lumberjack isn't making this roster. Maybe he's not. I don't know. But the assumption that I had, and I could be wrong, was that we were keeping 6 wide receivers. We were keeping 6 DBs in terms of corners, 4 safeties, and 4 tight ends. If you're keeping all of those positions, you can't keep 5 inside linebackers. Now, if you're keeping 3 tight ends and you're getting rid of the lumberjack, which I'm not a fan of, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not a fan of cutting loose lumberjack. But if that's what you want to do, then maybe you keep a 5th inside linebacker. But right now, I don't think that we're keeping that extra inside linebacker. I think that Perry Riley Jr. could be the odd man out, or it could be Terrence Garvin. But I think they like Garvin. I know they love him on special teams. So, hard to really say, but right now, if I had to guess, because Perry Riley is due the most money, he's being paid starter money, and if he's a backup, I think that's enough rationale in their minds to say, ain't no way we keeping this dude at the salary that he's making. We can cut bait with him and use that money elsewhere in case we need to sign somebody throughout the course of the season. So, I could easily see PRJ being the odd man out. RG3, hashtag smoke that 3, hashtag 1000, hashtag dog pound, hashtag 17-16 MVP. Do you think Kendall Fuller starting? No, not starting right out the gate. As the season progresses, yes, he's going to eventually start. If he stays healthy, I can see him getting some snaps inside at the slot position for us. But right now, I think they're comfortable with Deshaun. I forgot his last name, but y'all know who I'm talking about. They're comfortable with him starting, Deshaun Phillips, starting at the nickel spot for us right now. Every time I've seen the first team defense, Deshaun Phillips has been in the nickel. That's what they're going to roll with come week 1. But I think as the season progresses and they get more comfortable with Fuller and Fuller gets more comfortable in the scheme, he's going to be the guy that eventually takes over in the slot, if I had to guess. Lionfire says, Doxson looks good to go week 1. That's what I'm hearing. That's the word out of Ashburn, is that he's going to be good to go week 1. But I'm not going with that until I actually see it. We'll see what happens with him. But, I mean, how much are we really going to use him anyway, to be honest with you? I mean, even if he's healthy week 1, I don't expect to see a bunch of Josh Doxson. I mean, how much could he really know? How much could he really be integrated into the offense when he hasn't played a snap of football in a live game all preseason long? I highly doubt it. They might have one package where they could sneak him in there for a couple plays, but I can't see his impact being that great. Corey Fitterman says, you think they're going to start Long at center and Sean at left guard? No, I don't. Because if they were, we would have saw that combination in week 3 of the preseason. We're going to get Corey at center, and we're going to get Spencer Long at left guard. Aaron Hernandez says, who do you think will end up carrying the rock week one? Right now, if I had to bet, I would go with Matt Jones. Who? Matt Jones! I would go with Matt Jones. I think he'll be ready to go. If they wanted to err on the side of caution and give him an extra week to heal up, which they probably should, then I think it'll be Rob Kelly. I highly doubt that we'll sign someone that can come in and tote the rock week 1. I don't think they're going to want to do that. But it wouldn't shock me if we signed somebody after these round of cuts, brought him in, he touches the rock a little bit, and then once we get Matt Jones. Who? Matt Jones back along with Chris Thompson. Then that other back comes onto the roster. Then you'll see a guy like Robert Kelly maybe get cut and then brought back and put on the practice squad. So that's another option too. We'll see what happens. But if I was a bet man, I'd go with Matt Jones. Who? Matt Jones carrying the rock in week number 1 for our beloved Burgundy and Gold. Greg the Best says, is this Breland's year? Yep. That's an easy one. Yep. And teams going to find out he's not the one. They're going to find out. They tried Josh this past game, the Bills did. Not the one. So then other teams going to be like, you know what? Probably shouldn't mess with Josh. Let's go on the other side. And they're going to find out, Bashad, not the one. Yeah, this is his season. He going to blow up. All right. Let's see. Casey Johnson. What about Sua? He's making his team. And if I didn't name him as an inside linebacker, it's because to me he's just a player. Like you can put him at inside linebacker if you like, and say we're keeping 5. But he's a inside linebacker. He's a safety. He's all over the place. They're gonna play this guy as a rover, and a rover is a hybrid between safety and linebacker. But technically speaking, the Redskins do classify him as an inside linebacker. So technically speaking, we would be keeping 5 inside linebackers. But that's why I didn't name him, because I just see him as a football player, a guy that's going to be a hybrid for us. He's not a true inside linebacker, and they're not going to use him in that sense. They're going to use him as a rover, a guy that's going to be dropping underneath some of these hook zones, a guy that's going to be blitzing. When he's in the game, he's going to be looking to attack the line of scrimmage. I think he's going to be a guy much in the mold, and somebody mentioned it in the comment section, much in the mold of a Shaq Thompson. But Shaq Thompson's way more athletic than a Sua Cravens. But yes, in that type of mold, that's how they're going to try to use Sua Cravens. Hunte Wells says, do you think Terrence Knight will come back to DC? No. We didn't want him, and we brought him in, and I think we tried to talk numbers with him before to see where his head was at. He had other options. He went to New England. We don't want him back. He wasn't that good for us last year. He was okay. He wasn't great. We stunk stopping the run last year with Terrence Knighting on the football team. It's not like we were good with him helping us stop the run. We were terrible with him on the field. We don't need to bring him back and have him just taking up space. I'd rather have a young guy come in here and try to do something than bring him back and have him do what he did last year. Corey Fitterman says, so would it be safe to say we will draft the center first round next year? I think we'll draft one early next year potentially, but I won't say first round. If there's a guy in our wheelhouse wherever we select that we like and it makes sense from a prospect standpoint, yeah. But remember, Scott McCloughan is big on drafting football players and getting the best value possible. We didn't necessarily need a receiver this year in the first round, but Josh Doxson was too good a value to pass up. So you just never know. It's too early to start talking draft for next year, but I will say that center might be high on the list of priorities come next offseason, whether that's in free agency or that's the draft. I think that's something that we will look to address next offseason. And with that, that's the final comment. I thank you guys for joining me on this impromptu video. I got one more comment. I'll read this one and I'll get out of here. Will this be Preston Smith's year? I feel so. I mean, if you watch my video about the Week 3 game versus Buffalo, you saw that I was going off because Preston had a phenomenal game stopping the run. He stopped the run effectively all preseason long, and he's been getting around the corner, but he hasn't been able to bend that edge. If he can just run that track and find a way to get fully around that corner and not allow the tackle to push him up the field, he's going to have double-digit sacks this season. I'm really high on Preston Smith. I'm bullish even on Preston Smith this year. Double-digit sacks. If he's healthy, double-digit sacks coming with P. Boogie in 2016. So that's going to do it for me. I thank you guys for joining me on this impromptu video. Had to talk about the Stork voiding of the trade and also the Redskins signing Cullen Jenkins. If it happens here on this channel with me, Louie T, and the Redskins report, I am a Redskins fan. Etched in burgundy and gold. My Redskin spirit will never die. Redskin spirit will never fold until we meet again. Hail to our beloved Redskins. I will see you guys later on in the week. Keep coming back and joining me. And keep the questions coming. If you want to continue the conversation, you got more questions, you know what my Twitter is. Hit me up. Use the hashtag Louie T Live, and I will respond to your tweets. So I will talk to you guys later. Hell, see y'all later on in the week.